Hello, what is up guys? EvilDoUsHarm here today, back with another Blade and Soul video. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the piercing stat in Blade and Soul, basically what the cap is for this stat, what amount of piercing you need in order to successfully complete all of the content in game without having any reduced damage. So we'll explain the piercing stat here in a second, but a big question a lot of you are going to have is, Levi, why the heck are you remaking a video you already made like a year and a half ago? And the reason I'm doing that is because the last time I made that video, the maximum level I believe was level 55, and a ton of new content has been added to the game since that video. So I want to update this video and give you an idea of what amount of piercing, what percentage you need to clear all the content. Spoiler alert, it is different from last time. In the same vein as that answer, I was actually browsing Reddit and I saw this post right here. We should have a wiki and something that tells me like what all these different stats do in the game and blah, 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 blah. So then I went to my videos list on my channel and just typed in stat and found that I have a video for every single stat. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Wait, my piercing stat video was from over a year ago? That's got to be so outdated. Let me remake it. So I went into my stat calculator, pulled up the old spreadsheet, and brought out some new numbers to figure out what piercing you need in the game to do maximum damage. So as an overview for a player who has no idea what piercing is, if you press P on the keyboard, it brings up all of your character stats, you will see the piercing stat. The piercing stat is broken down into two sections. You have the defense piercing and the block piercing. Defense piercing is your primary PvE stat. Block piercing applies more to PvP type instances. Just not many bosses have a block animation or a block that's going to go on that you need to penetrate while piercing. Ideally, you're supposed to be avoiding attacking into bosses' blocks. At any rate, every single boss has a defense number, and you need a defense piercing percent in order to penetrate the entirety of their defense to do maximum damage. Previously, when I last did this video over a year ago, that number was 15%, and it has dropped substantially with the most recent updates. So how do I go ahead and test this? I go through all the different bosses in the Hongmoon training area, and this is the same way I did it last time. So you can hit select training and go through all the different bosses, load up an instance of them, and have different piercing stats available on my character by changing the gear that I use. I then do a couple of attacks to get a general idea for the amount of damage that each type of attack is doing, and as I move down the line of increasing difficulty of bosses, I can find the thresholds where they break even. At the same time, I have the calculation equation for determining the theoretical damage that every single skill should do. So for Dark Shot, it's really easy to calculate since its scaling is so low, and you can get an expected damage for each type of attack. You can then compare that expected damage to the damage that you see output on the screen when you're actually fighting, and find that those are usually within 3 or 4% of each other. So pretty easy way to confirm that you're at the right area that you think you should be in. So, previously, in 2018, and this is the work that was done up to the Raven King boss, the raid boss Raven King, we saw that the breakpoint was somewhere between 12 and 15% for piercing as to how much piercing you needed to hit the maximum damage at all times. So you can see right here on this top bit. So I went ahead and did the same exact test for 2019 with 3 different piercing percentages, 7.29%, 8%, and 0.85%, so basically 0% piercing. And the findings are actually pretty interesting. At 8.02%, so 8% piercing, you do the same damage to every single boss in the game. Doesn't matter if it's the Asura boss from way back ago that nobody even clears, all the way up to the Grand Celestial Emperor, the 3rd raid that was added into the game, or 4th raid, I guess, depending on how you want to count the raids. At any rate, 3,400 damage across the board, no matter what I did as an average damage hit. 8% piercing only correlates to a piercing stat of about 1,965 to get to that 8% piercing stat. If we drop below that 8% piercing to 7.29, 7.3% piercing, you can see that right here between Sandstorm Temple and the Shadowmoor, we have a drop-off of an average damage number. So this damage number means that 7.29% is not enough. And actually, if we go further out, all the way up to the Dread Prince, you see that it drops even further. So 7.3% is not enough piercing, but 8% is enough piercing. So the breakpoint for the amount of piercing you need to do maximum damage across all different content in the game is about 8%, somewhere between 7.3 and 8%, which once again is significantly less than it was about a year and a half ago. This is because we've had the addition of levels, and there was also the easy mode nerfs done to the dungeons, which probably messed with some of the stats, along with all of a whole bunch of other changes. So definitely interesting news. I didn't expect it to be so low, and that like 8% piercing is pretty easily obtainable just with like basic gear. In the same vein, it means that when you're putting together your soul shield sets, you really have no reason for piercing on here whatsoever as well. I know it's a stat that can roll on soul shield pieces, so something else to keep in mind if you get piercing might not be the best thing you want to keep on your soul shield set. At any rate, I hope you guys found this information useful. I definitely found it useful. I'll be adjusting my character and how I have it spec'd here for sure. But if you did like the video, make sure to leave a like. Check out some of the other videos on the channel. I have a whole bunch of videos that go through all the different stats in the game. And once again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you at the next stream, video, or wherever I happen to see you. Peace.